In this episode, we were talking all about that James O'Keefe undercover video about Disney and their hiring practices. We're going to watch the video, react to it along the way. This is a totally uncontroversial topic, everybody, so it should be smooth sailing. That's up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. I have a fantastic panel with me today. We got host of Story Geeks and How Stories Work, Mr. Jay Sherer in the house. We got the Italiano and, of course, Mr. Seymour Duck. Italiano, I will start with you, sir. Thank you for joining. If you let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. And right below George, we got Mr. Seymour Duck. Now, Seymour Duck, I want to congratulate you. You today hit 1,000 followers on X.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
No, absolutely, much deserved, man. We do appreciate your insight, and you're a good friend of ours, and that's awesome to see. You kind of got there quick. You only had the account for what, a couple of years or something?
Yeah, I had a personal one before then, yeah, but then I changed it up. But yeah, I only had it for like a year. Yeah.
A year. That's really good. Really good. But yeah, congratulations, sir. And make sure if you at home are not following him on X, make sure you do so. If you're a Disney fan, if you're a Nintendo fan, you're into the financial analysis of both of these
or even companies. Doctor Who as well.
Or even Doctor Who. Check out Mr. Seymour Duck. Mr. Duck, if you can let them know where they can follow you on X.
Oh, yeah, at Mr. Seymour Duck. And I'm glad to be here.
There he is.
Yeah, I wanted some spice today, so thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't imagine what kind of spice we'll be getting out of this topic.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And Mr. Jay Sherer, Jay, it's good to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. We were a part of a podcast last night together with the Fanbase Press. So if you want, that podcast just dropped. So if you want to go listen to that, head over to the Fanbase Press to our friends Barbara and Bryant Dillon.
Absolutely. I'll actually link that down below. Really good conversation about like social media and mental health and AI. We got into some deep stuff, so make sure you check it out. I'll link it down below. But Jay, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Yes, you can find me at How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. Over there, I'm generally talking to other folks who are doing filmmaking or writing, or I'm doing explained videos where I have done a deep dive into a particular movie like Sicario, Chinatown, Dune. The one I got coming up this week is actually Deadpool, which is a little less intense, but I try to explain all of what's going on there, from the 3-act structure to the character arcs to all the things that are happening in those films. And of course, you can also follow me right here on Orange Grove 55 when we do the Story Geeks. We've got a show coming up on Deadpool 2, and then of course Deadpool and Wolverine later in July.
Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in, guys. We're going to go ahead and watch this James O'Keefe video. We are going to play it, and then we'll stop it along the way, discuss it like we always do here on the channel with our reaction videos. I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and we'll dive right in. Here we go.
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
how would they say it?
there's no way we're hiring a white male person. They say,
Like straight to you, or okay?
They'd be very careful how they message that to agents.
According to these videos.
Okay, so I kind of want to. Already, it starts off really spicy, right? It's like out the gate, we're coming in hot. So here's my thing, and then I'll go down to you, George. I'll go down the row. He was saying that there's no way we're going to hire a white male for this role. The thing is, though, there's not a whole lot of context with that, right? Because that does matter, because here's the thing. If you're hiring a diversity and inclusion chief yeah, it would be a little tone deaf to maybe hire the white male. You're going to be looking for a different demographic for that role. You know what I'm saying? That just makes a whole lot of sense. Now, they're obviously not shy about promoting or hiring white males. Sean Bailey, head of the studio, live action, recently left the company. He was replaced by a white male. We have a lot of candidates for the next CEO that will replace Bob Iger. And the list goes on and on. Tom Staggs, Kevin Meyer, Alan Bergman, Josh D'Amaro, Pitaro from ESPN, all white males. And we do have Dana Walden, who's a white woman. We just had a new CFO, also a white male. There's a whole slew of white males, being promoted and hired for this company. So I'm not really sure what they're trying to get at with this in particular. It just seems a little strange to me. But George, you go first, and then we'll go to Seymour, and then Jay.
For me, I just think a lot of this, as in O'Keefe fashion, was taken a lot out of context. Even to the beginning part of the clip of the conversation, we don't necessarily know what the conversation was prior to what was being asked, what was being said, that led to the conclusion of him answering of whatever the conversation could have been talking about. You can clip and edit anything to make it sound like however you want it to.
Well, and he's had this issue before, though, not even just with this video in particular, but he's been criticized for that clever editing to sort of craft a certain narrative. But go on, George.
But so to kind of just show that clip and say, oh, yeah, this is what it is. This is what it means. Well, yeah, the wording is saying on the wall, okay, that's what they're saying. And whether or not, that particular executive was in the right or in the wrong, I mean, I'm for sure he should be questioned about it. I mean, I'm for sure, I don't know where his job lies now. I mean, I know he removed his, his LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're going to do that, then that kind of shows that you're maybe kind of guilty of, running your mouth a little bit too much. But at the same time, even to him as an executive, you don't really know what the pattern is of like what solidifies a person to get a job title or a job role. It's like, it may just be that those, if they try to hire somebody who just happened to be a white Caucasian male and he didn't get the job, it's not because he was white or Caucasian. It's just, he didn't fit the bill for the job.
Yeah. No, well said. What do you think, Seymour?
Yeah. Like you mentioned a few names of people who just hired, especially the CFO, Hugh Johnson, who was a big deal. He has like a great track record, right? And he's coming from Pepsi, and they brought him in, and he was like the latest big hire that came in. And this title says there's no way we're hiring a white male. They just hired a white male for one of their biggest roles, CFO.
Right.
And I'm surely he was hired because of his background, his resume, his track record, not for the color of his skin.
Right, exactly. And he replaced a woman. I mean, yeah. Right? I mean, so it's like, what are they trying to say? Like, they're trying to craft this narrative like, oh, they're super woke and that's why they're doing this. But you have a white male replacing a woman for one of the top positions in the company. So it's like, okay.
Exactly. And then you have Mark Parker, who was appointed as chairman of the board for Disney, and he also replaced a woman. And then you have Joe, if I pronounce his last name right, Early. These are like the last three big executives. He got appointed as the president, direct to consumer and Disney Entertainment in December 2022. These are all white males who have a great track record. Mark Parker actually was the ex-CEO of Nike, right? And Joe Early was coming from Hulu. And like these people, they have great track records. It has nothing to do with their skin color or the diversity. If the role is pivoted to that, sure, but like these guys got hired for their track record, their resume, and the past work they have done. Hugh Johnson if you go see Hugh Johnson on CNBC, you can see why he was hired. He's a great asset to the company.
Yeah, no, well said, Seymour. Well said. What do you think, Jay?
Well, like anything, when people remove nuance, we got to kind of break it down to kind of reveal more nuance. So let's break down a couple things that we know already. We know that O'Keefe's standard is to go after the left predominantly and do gotcha style journalism, right? Like that's his stick. He's done it before. He's doing it now. Disney has received a lot of attention because of the politicization of what they were doing in Florida and what Ron DeSantis was pulling out there. So Disney is kind of an easy target right now to do this kind of reporting on. I think that there's other things we need to note in the setup of this. I don't know if it was WDWNT. I think it was. Could have been another website that I was looking at. But they referenced that this guy was on the auspices of like going on a date with this person, right? So like this female journalist is interviewing this white male who works at the Walt Disney Company, presumably in middle management. I don't know that it's fair to call him an executive. I know he has like a fancy title, but companies that are the size of Disney, there's a lot of people with fancy titles that really don't actually have a lot of control over what's going on. I don't know. I haven't researched this particular gentleman specifically, but I do think that this raises several issues. One, it raises issues like what are people willing to say when they don't know they're being filmed? Because I'm assuming that this gentleman did not know he was being filmed, which is you put yourself in that place. Like that's a giant problem. Like if you don't know you're being filmed and they're going to just take you out of context and out of a 3-hour long conversation, they're going to just take little 20-second snippets. He could have followed up some of these things with, but you know what? Disney's such a great place to work because it's super inclusive. So I'm really glad that we have that kind of policy or whatever he says, right? Like we don't exactly know what he's saying. On the flip side of it, just to play devil's advocate here for a second, I don't think that what most people watching this video will feel is that Disney is they're not going to I know what you guys are saying. You guys are saying like look at all of the top leaders at Disney. A lot of them are white males. The successor to Bob Iger, there's a lot of white males in the running, like you guys have pointed out. The part that I think is worthy of actually having a conversation about as we go through the video is that I don't think most of us are thinking that we're ever going to get the top position at Disney, right? So the other question that we have to discuss is how does this hit Disney's reputation for just the average person who wants to work at Disney? I've known a lot of people who work at Disney, and if you look at some of the things that the way that they've hired different positions and things like that, they have taken a stance, I think for good reasons, by the way. This is not me complaining. I'm just saying they have taken a stance where they've said we need to increase the level of diversity that people are seeing, particularly in the parks, particularly in places where there's a public face to a role that is not just all a bunch of white people. Now, I'll talk later about why I think that that's actually an important decision for Disney to make. But I do think that when a lot of people will watch this video, they're not thinking, oh yeah, well the highest echelon is white people. They're going to think, well, what happens if I try to go get a job at Disney? Like, how does this ruin Disney's reputation for being able to hire just general cast members or other middle management type of folks that want to join the Walt Disney Company? I think that there's that aspect to it as well. And it's a complex it's not a simple gotcha video. This is a complex issue that we had to break down over the course of this whole video.
Absolutely. Well said and great points.
Videotapes, Disney blatantly discriminates against white men in particular.
I think I'm sort of like well prepared for it. I'm well positioned for it. But as far as Disney's concerned, I'm a white male. And that's not who they're looking to promote at the moment.
As a white guy, even Michael has his own doubts about the possibility for advancement for himself.
Now, here's the thing, though. Michael I'm looking at it now. He's a senior VP. And he's worried he's not going to get promoted because he's a white male. But it's like, okay, if you're getting promoted, you're going up that ladder. We've shown Seymour, you listed a bunch of people really higher up on that scale where he would, the positions that this guy would be applying for essentially are being filled by white guys. Like, the CFO, all these big positions are being filled by white guys. And Jay makes a great point where like the rank and file, it might be a different story, but this guy is senior VP and he wants to move up that ladder. Well, up that ladder seems to have a lot of white people in it. So I'm not really sure what he's saying in particular. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of interesting.
And honestly, I was going to bring this up the first time. Now, I'm not accusing. I'm not saying he is or isn't, but just into the factor too. But I'm also kind of looking at the executive's kind of mannerisms, his body language of how he's talking and everything. He seems very kind of unstable, kind of a little bit unhinged, a little bit, almost like he already had a few drinks in his system prior to this conversation. And I do know too that, now again, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but when you have a few drinks in you, your mouth runs.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's like that time we went to Tam O'Shanter's, and I think our waitress roofied you because this guy had one beer and got hammered. I'm like, how did that happen, bro? I don't know, man. Maybe O'Keefe was trying to do an undercover on OG55 that day. I don't know. We'll see.
At Disney, in fact, Michael actually got to experience Disney's discrimination against white males firsthand.
I've been at the company 11 years now, so I have friends in HR and I have friends in those divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike, but they're not considering any white males for the shop. They're just not. That's not what they want.
They even passed over a qualified half-black person for a promotion because they didn't look black enough.
We wanted to hire somebody in the department a few years ago now, who was half black, but didn't appear half black. And there was a creative executive who was like, "We're not that's not what's wrong." They wanted somebody in meetings who would appear a certain way, and he wasn't going to bring that to the meeting. I mean, it kind of feels like we're, at some point there's going to be a lawsuit.
What are your Seymour? What are your thoughts on that? In terms of this, and I'm going to say allegation because this is just this guy's opinion, on it, and it's very much edited. You can tell like crazy, but about this half black employee.
I really don't know. This is just nonsense to me. I just want to say that it looks like, how you say he's on a date, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say I know a few people who politically will switch to the other side and trash talk about anything to impress someone. And I don't know if he's doing this, but I know a few people who've done that on dates, where they see someone who's politically on, let's say, the right, but they're on the left, but they will trash talk about the left side just to impress this person. And I don't know if this person is doing it on purpose, trash talking about his company and everything, even if it's true or not, just to impress this person, because it's on a date. And apparently there's another video when he went on a second date as well, doing the same thing.
Interesting.
I feel like there's a pattern going on, and I feel like he's just, I'm just speculating here, but that's what it feels like to me. Because I've seen people who've done that on dates just to impress women. Because you got to this point, you must have known who this other person is that you went on a date with nowadays.
Right. But and okay, so he's saying that, and I don't think he even says what position they're applying for, which again matters. Yeah. And there's, like you always say, Seymour, context matters. And if this position is, a DEI position, they're gonna want a person of color in that position. You know what I'm saying? And so we don't know the context here.
And we don't know if he was still employed at this time. It was. I noticed that his LinkedIn was deleted, but some people on X have been saying that his LinkedIn page was deleted before, and I don't know if that was true or not. But there's a lot of things that happen where, even for me, example, I don't update my LinkedIn page even when I get fired. I only update it. I don't update it until I look for a new job, and I don't know if there's information on that LinkedIn page that could have exposed him. I don't know if he's going to be in a lawsuit with Disney, or if this happening. There's a lot of things that could speculate. I don't. It just seems like we're missing a lot of the piece of the puzzle here, and everything's out of context, and we don't know what's actually happening. It just feels like it's weird. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and O'Keefe has had this issue before with the editing, the clever editing, and kind of piecing it together. We're not seeing the entirety of the conversation, so it's hard to I can take our videos, for example, and I can clip and edit it, and make it look a certain way, even if it's not. You can edit certain little audio bits and kind of craft the narrative that way. And it could be that this is what you would come to the same conclusion with the full context. It's possible, but we don't get any of that, so it's hard to say. But what do you think, Jay, about this allegation about the half white, half black employee that didn't, I guess, optically didn't think it was appropriate or something? Alleged from this guy.
Yeah. One other thing I want to point out that's interesting about this video is that this information was collected illegally, because this was in California and it's illegal to record someone without them knowing you're doing it. So this is technically, they set this guy up basically, right?
Yeah. And to George's credit, I see 2 glasses of wine there, right front and center too. That's kind of interesting. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing I would say is, of all of the things that Michael says, this particular statement is probably the most damaging to Disney. Because basically what he's saying is that they will hire for optics even when the person meets the standard of inclusion that they would like to meet, but doesn't look like they meet the standard that they're trying to meet.
That's a great point.
That's probably the worst thing he says in this whole video. I do think that you guys are right in saying we don't know the context here. I'm looking up the 20th Century Fox film actual org chart, and senior vice president is such a weird title, because at some companies that's used for salespeople, because salespeople, if they have a vice president title, they're able to get people on the phone faster. Banks, you go look at any bank and they have all these vice presidents, and you're like, why? Because they're salespeople and they think that they can get on the phone with people easier. I've worked in banks, I know this. So I think that's the most damning thing that he says in this video in terms of what Disney needs to be particularly worried about. But let's remember, he's working for 20th Century Fox here. He's not working for I didn't realize that, by the way, when the first time I watched the video. I didn't realize that. I know it says 20th Television right there, but I was thinking they make such a big point about it being the Walt Disney Company that I was thinking it had more relation to Disney corporate when it's actually a 20th Century. So it's a Disney holding that we're talking about. It depends, right? When we start talking about these kinds of things, what is the company's mission and vision in the division that he's working for? Because let's just say that division, let me just point out a couple stats. The United States of America is becoming a more and more diverse company or country percentage-wise every single year. It's becoming less white and more diverse. That means that a lot of companies are trying to figure out, well, what's the next generation of people who are coming up, and what do those people want to see? What do they want to experience? And if the percentages are shifting, these companies realize, look, these companies are out to make money. The way this is being presented is as if Disney is basically saying, well, money be damned, we just want as many diverse people working in diverse positions as possible. But I don't think that's always the case. They could be trying to figure out let's just say, for example, this guy works in a division of television, and they see that Euphoria is popping off. They see Euphoria is just going gangbusters, and they go, well, what can we do that's similar to Euphoria? Guess what? All we have is a bunch of 60-year-old white males. They don't watch Euphoria. We got to get somebody in here who watches Euphoria so we can have a show like Euphoria. Right. We're not getting any of the behind the scenes of what's going on. Now, if I was this guy and I'm having a private conversation and I feel like, if you're asking me about, because we don't know what the questions are, by the way, we're not presented with the questions, we're only presented with his snippets. And if he's saying, we don't really hire white people anymore, again, for some good reasons that we've already talked about, then it's gonna make it look like Disney is being discriminatory, when in actuality Disney just has a vision and a mission to achieve something, or 20th Century Fox does in this case, and they're just trying to align those things into the right place. So we don't have enough information. This is what this is wild speculation that a few clips of this guy saying a few things next to a glass of wine, to George's point, are going to be like just crush the Walt Disney Company. And we also have to be careful because the laws of the United States of America, particularly in California, when we talk about discrimination, predominantly the people who have been discriminated against are non-white males of this guy's age. He doesn't look like he's 40 to me. So the rules are like 40 is the age limit, right? Where you're not supposed to discriminate based on ageism either. So it's weird that the whole video is Disney is being so are we using a legal definition of discrimination, or are we using just a legal or a general description of discrimination based on a narrative that these people want to push out there?
Yeah, exactly. And I would agree with you, Jay. I think that the snippet about the employee that's half black, I would agree with you. And the entire thing, I think is the most potentially damaging for the Walt Disney Company. Absolutely, because that does look like, okay, you're not quote unquote black enough for this. We need someone who looks more black for the role, and it's an optics thing, and that looks really, really bad.
I mean that person now has a lawsuit. Like legitimately, that person has a lawsuit if they want one, because that means that they discriminated against someone for not being black enough, which is crazy, and they can easily pursue that with the Walt Disney Company and have this guy be a witness. But we also don't know what position they were technically hiring for in that. I mean, I'm going to give a ridiculous example that's probably not true, but let's just say that they were hiring for. And by the way, I have to say that this is a more of a sensitive topic, and I worked with one of the actresses in our full cast audiobook. She's half black, half white, and she plays a black character in our audiobook. And she has spent a lot of time talking about how she's having a difficult time even in Hollywood, because sometimes they would be like, well, these kinds of things have come up because she doesn't present as like either super black or super white. She kind of presents as middle ground. And she said that's difficult because sometimes they're looking for a role that fits a certain criteria, and I don't fit that role, right? So I think it's a sensitive topic, and it's definitely a bad look on Disney's part for saying, but let's just play with this for a second. If you're going to hire somebody because 20th Century Fox has a new Tiana princess show coming out, and that particular person looks, even though they might be half black, half white, if that person looks whiter than they look black, and they're trying to hire for Tiana, I mean, it would be an outrage if they, there was a video of Disney Parks released a video of cast members getting excited about opening Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and it was, for whatever reason, Disney kind of missed the mark a little bit, I think, on this one, and a lot of the cast members were white, and a bunch of the comments were like, why are all the cast members that are promoting this ride white? So just to a certain extent, it's hard for Disney to win in this kind of category because they have to like jump through hoops to get it right, to get all of the visuals right for everybody who could possibly see these things. We don't know why this position wasn't hired that way, but it is definitely, as you say, OG, and as I said, the most problematic part of the video.
Absolutely. And it would help if he provided some context to this.
Yes.
I don't know if that's by design because he wants to paint it a certain way or what have you, but and that's the issue I have with O'Keefe and a lot of his stuff. It's not just this. There's no, he usually leaves out the content. It's usually these quickly edited little sound bites pieced together, and it's for me, it's suspect. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to kind of, go ahead, George.
Well, for the person who is biracial,
right?
Was it something that was an acting role, or was this something nothing was mentioned?
We don't know. He said for a position or a role or something like that, or he didn't say what it was for. So we don't know.
Yeah. See, so that can kind of go either way. That could be, if you're going in for an audition and, they're looking for a particular, kind of role, as Jay had mentioned, like if it would be Tiana or what have you. I do also think it also goes by wording of how like something is presented. If the casting agent, if it was for an acting position, if they were to say, I thank you for coming. Thanks for the audition, but we don't seem that you fit this part because we don't think you're black enough, quote unquote. That is, to me, is almost like malpractice.
Mhm.
It's like the wording is like, you just say, thank you for your time. We'll be in touch. We'll call you if we need you. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of where everything that has to be labeled with race.
Well,
If someone is like
Yeah.
fit for the job, let's see the qualifications, whether they're white, black, brown.
but this is
Puerto
the thing
Rican.
too. But
I-
but this is the thing too. We don't know we're hearing all this information through this guy's filter. That's the problem
Right.
I'm also having.
But-
It's one
right.
dude.
Exactly. But I mean, this whole video is what I have the issue with, because they're saying they're not hiring white guys. It's like, why does everything have to be labeled? Let's look
Mhm.
at what the whole notion is. Can these quote unquote white guys that went in for whatever these job positions are they qualified for the job? Yes or no? It's like, I just, even to with like comedians or what have you, like everything now is just so politically kind of I'm trying to think of the right way how to put it. It's just like, so like everything has to be like, oh, well, I am a blank, 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 so-and-so type of person. It's just like, can't you just be a person that has the qualifications, that knows how to do this job? Whether it's an acting gig, whether it's a behind the scenes, whether it's an executive position, like to kind of throw out these stories. And I'm speaking to you, O'Keefe. It's just like, we already had like issues with not hiring enough diverse people. Now he's backtracking the fact of saying, okay, well, they're not hiring white people. It's like every time that they go down this line where you're looking at a particular race, gender, sexuality, what have you, you start nitpicking through everything of just getting a job qualification.
Yeah.
To me, that stuff shouldn't. Again, now I know with acting that's different, because if you're playing a particular role or a part or what have you, there's certain logistics to that. But if you're trying to get an executive position, or you're trying to get something in production design or something, I'm sorry, race, ethnic, sexual orientation, honestly, that really honestly shouldn't matter.
Well, I think I agree with you for the most part, but I do think if you're going in for like if you're head of like a diversity unit at a company, I think being like a old white guy would be not a great choice. You know what I'm saying? So I do think there are roles, executive positions, that you would need a person of color, but we wouldn't know any of that because they don't really get into the roles and they give us no context. Go ahead, Seymour.
I just wanted to say, you guys reminded me of something about how like the live action cast for Lilo and Stitch was announced, and a few of the people were outraged because they were complaining that Disney was whitewashing. The actors weren't dark enough, even though they were born in Hawaii. Not good enough. But now we're having the opposite effect in this video, where it's like, oh, you're not hiring. Sorry, go on. Yeah. In this video where it's saying you're not black enough. I'm like, huh?
That's
So
what
it's
I'm
like-
saying. It's like, no matter which way you go, it's like, you're not dark enough, you're not white enough, your hair's
Well,
not this color,
and
your
is
eye
it
color's not like this.
And is it Disney responding, like you were saying, Seymour, to there was public pressure with Lilo and Stitch? Is the comment that this guy is referring to, is that Disney trying to prevent a PR thing? You know, we don't know the context here. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Disney feels that there would be backlash if the person's half and not full. We don't know. Like the Lilo and Stitch thing. You know, you were saying, Seymour, there was some backlash with that. So
yeah, they were saying that they were whitewashing and then colorism and all this issues, and they said they've been doing that for a lot of the recent movies. But I'm like, but now it's like, oh, you're not black enough, so now we're doing the opposite effect. Like, I don't understand it. This, like Jay said, it doesn't matter. Like Disney always going to get the both side of the spectrum of getting hate. It doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah, it's like it's like you can't win no matter what. And as I said, it's people like this that create. I'm just going to say it, bullshit content like this, where we don't even get the full story. We're getting these little clips of we don't know what the questions are. We don't know how they're being presented.
With a giant ass glass of wine in front of us.
With a giant ass glass of wine that he's probably like the fourth or fifth one in. I could see it in his eyes. I'm sorry, he's half baked there. I could tell.
Just because of, you know.
And that is a lawyer talking. So how does Disney explain pushing these discriminatory practices? They use code words and buzzwords.
I'm guessing that there is a acceptable code words and buzzwords that are used to explain what they're looking for. They might say something like, you know, look, we're not looking at like the usual suspects for this job. You know, so it's like not like a legally actionable thing, but everybody knows what it means. They, you know, for writers and actors, we hear all the time, like, you know, looking to hire writers and actors who bring diversity. I'm not looking to bring on any more clients who are like.
Welcome to the Disney Tapes. My name is James O'Keefe, standing here in Burbank, California, outside Disney corporate headquarters. This is our first part in a series about blatant discrimination and woke policies at the Walt Disney Company. To say that the Disney Company has had a tumultuous 5 years, well, that would be an understatement. Major box office flops, a losing battle with the state of Florida, and a stock that is one of the worst performers on.
But
where have you been, O'Keefe? Like all three of those statements, where the hell have you been?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, for the box office flops, did they flop because they were woke though? Like, I don't know. Like, was Wish woke? I mean, I don't think it,
not that I've ever seen anything of it.
This is a lie, by the way. It actually went up after the earnings. They didn't go down. It went down after the shareholder meeting. It's a completely different thing.
And I'm sorry. And Disney lost Florida. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, to me, it seemed like Disney got everything back, kind of what they wanted, and then some. That was all just a political stunt. I mean, yeah, the name of the Reedy Creek changed and everything, but I mean, you have, you know, Florida representatives that.
Well, I think it's less. Okay, it's less control than what they had with Reedy Creek, absolutely. But it's also not the beating that I think a lot of people on the right think it is, though, for Disney now. I think it's you have someone on that board who I think she's running the board who has been very friendly to Disney. It seems like ever since DeSantis dropped out the presidential race, suddenly Disney and this new board seem to be working out just fine. Yeah, I don't think they took the beating that a lot of people think they did. Now, is it as cushy and wonderful as the Reedy Creek thing was for them? No, absolutely not. But they're also not bleeding out exactly. But the movies too. This is the thing. I keep hearing about brand damage, you know, and I keep hearing about brand damage. I hear it with Star Wars and I hear it with Disney movies. Here's the thing, though. The brand damage with Disney movies, I hear it a lot with animation, right? It's like, oh man, all these flops, you know, families are staying away from Disney movies, Disney animated movies. But then Inside Out 2 comes out and it's like breaking all kinds of records. It's like, okay, so what happened to people staying away from Disney movies? Like all of a sudden they're over it and now they're okay with the mouse. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think a lot of these movies probably underperformed because families are pickier with their money now because they can get content on their phone and on their iPad and stuff, and they don't want to spend $100 at the theater. You know, and that's the most likely scenario. Go ahead, Seymour.
I just wanted to add to that. Disney's revenue, ever since after COVID, has been increased year over year, has not decreased once. So meaning that the consumers who are spending money has been spending more money on Disney every year. So that brand withdrawal hasn't succeeded.
Yeah,
it's not being shown because revenue coming in is all that sales from those consumers, money coming in. We can debate all on profits and whatnot, but this is coming from the money coming in. So the part, what you don't notice is that Disney had a new sector within that, and that's streaming. So Disney's consumers are now spending more money widely, more diverse. So it's not just the movie theater now; it's the parks, the movie theaters, and streaming, which was not part of their business model before 2019.
Right, and there's also a lot of goalpost moving too with the movies and stuff, because woke is a very subjective thing, right? So Barbie was really woke until it made $1 billion, right? We talk about this all the time, Seymour, right? So Barbie was like, there were so many YouTube videos out there about how this movie is gonna be the wokest thing Hollywood ever did, and the minute it started to make money at the box office, all those channels and that narrative completely disappeared. You know what I'm saying? We saw the same thing with the Super Mario Brothers movie. There was all this talk about Peach. They were calling her Peach Skywalker. I'm sure, Seymour, you're a Nintendo fan. You saw all of that, you know? And then once it started to make money, suddenly it was the antithesis of woke. It's like, wait a minute, you guys were just saying this was super woke. So that's why when I see these narratives out there like, oh, the movies are failing because of woke, well, no, they're failing because they're not making a product that the general public is interested in. That's what it is. And then when something does land, then these narratives change and suddenly it's not woke. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to add to that. A lot of people forget now that Disney, before the big IPs kept coming in, they forgot that some of the IPs that they created that was before 2019 have failed. They weren't always a 100% success rate, right? And right now, Disney is kind of like an IP factory where those IPs they know that do well, like Inside Out 2. And that's what's happening. You see these people coming in, but sometimes you release a movie that doesn't hit with the audience and it doesn't do well. But they're taking that as, oh, it's woke. But I mean, like Disney had movies that weren't successful before 2019 and nobody was calling it woke.
Yeah.
Nowadays, anything that's not successful, it's woke.
Right. And if it's a hit, then it's the antithesis of woke.
And one more thing I find it very ironic is that they don't show any other media company stock. I mean, they could have shown Netflix if they wanted to on their narrative saying that, oh, look, compared to Netflix, Disney's doing bad. But if you look at Comcast, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Sony, they're all doing worse than Disney. But that is not being shown because the whole industry has been going down. But Disney coming in second place, they didn't want to show that. A lot of people on X was telling me that in the DMs that it's very odd, because it's their video, but is that they didn't want to say that because they didn't want to tell people that, Disney is failing, yet they're second place out of all the media companies.
Right. And that was left out of this one conveniently. I'm sure O'Keefe just forgot to.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure it was an honest mistake there. What do you think about this, Jay, so far? About the box office, all that stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that's happening with the box office, we've talked a lot about the box office on this channel. One of the things that's very difficult about the box office right now is that the box office has a multitude of reasons for what's going on, and it's almost impossible to isolate the variables to talk about causation. So all we see is some correlation to some things. We don't know what the causation to those things is. It's not super predictable about what will hit and what won't hit, but we can draw out some general principles of what's happening across the industry. And what they're saying to Seymour's very well said point is that they are crafting a narrative with a limited data set. When you expand the data set, this narrative falls apart under that pressure because they're isolating a few variables and saying, look at the research, Disney's failing. Okay, great. We'll look at the research because Universal would be doing the same or Comcast, as Seymour pointed out, would be doing the same. It's following the same pattern. Netflix is thriving, but also Netflix has a ton of woke content that's doing extraordinarily well on Netflix. So this is more of an issue with, we have a new type of business model that we're not sure how to deal with yet, and that's called streaming. We have old business models that are either dying or have a lot of revenue left in them, but the death is a slow death, like linear. So we've got like all of these variables, and it's very easy for people who want to craft the narrative, and they're either not intelligent enough or they're so intelligent that they know that they can craft the narrative and they will get followers and likes and people cheering them on because it fits a ideology as opposed to the actual facts that are putting out content like this. And this is just, it just doesn't work. So I don't think that means that there are not issues that some of these companies need to learn from, and there are not principles that go against some traditional American ideals, you might say, for example. Because I do think that, for example, and I apologize for going like real deep into this, but like if you wanted to tell me, if you wanted to do this video and you wanted to say, the reason that Disney is not hiring any white people is because they have DEI initiatives that are tied to how much money they might get from BlackRock. And BlackRock is controlling the financial system with its DEI initiatives and saying that these things must be present. I would say, you know what? That makes me uncomfortable. If Disney as a company said the best way we can do business is to actually figure out how to hire more people that in different roles that are diverse so that we can bring in more revenue, I would say that makes me very comfortable. Disney should do that. They're a company. That's what they are supposed to do. So again, which side of this issue do you want to discuss? Because if you're talking to me as a moderate, I go, yeah, you can hit me with the far left agenda. You can hit me with the far right agenda. I'm sitting in the middle going, why don't we actually do something that actually makes sense? In this case, this is a one-sided. I mean, the fact that he's putting investigative report or investigative journalist on his title is like a joke to investigative journalists, right? Yeah. So yeah, and this kind of stuff frustrates me.
Yeah, exactly. And look, if there's this is the thing too. If there was really this, if the narrative was accurate, if the narrative was for real, right? He wouldn't have to leave so much information out. He could just present everything, like Seymour said. Give us the Comcast Universal stuff. Give us the WB, right, and all that stuff, and then make your case. Yep. So if the reality is there for you, O'Keefe, then give us all the information, and the truth will speak for itself. But the fact that he conveniently leaves all this stuff out. Super suspect, man. Super freaking suspect. And again, Disney's not a perfect company. Believe me, they need to change. I mean, they are coming out of something. They were really just churning content out. A lot of it was not quality, and that was the real issue. It had nothing, in my opinion, very little to do with how woke stuff was. It was more to do with just, they were using Marvel as a content machine and churning it out. And I think Feige was spread too thin, and there was a whole host of issues. But the narrative here is just, I think, a little bit off.
Wall Street, and as you'll probably conclude from this report, as well as recent shareholder rumblings, almost all of Disney's recent failings are as a result of Bob Iger and the cast of characters here at Disney that are trying to force woke DEI policies into every aspect of Disney's vast media empire. What used to be
and I love how he says his opinion while reading the page, like that's like an official thing or something, right? Go ahead, Seymour.
So a lot of the stuff that's being made and being released now was in charge of Bob Chapek, even Inside Out too, and they're making it seem like Bob Iger was in charge for all of this stuff. He just came back 2023, almost like in between 2020 and 2023. Bob Iger was there doing the work. No, not really. It was Bob Chapek that was in charge at that time.
Yeah.
Just wanted to add that in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Highly profitable company, by being the gold standard of family entertainment, has taken a sharp downturn in the wake of all of its wokeness. Under CEO Bob Iger's leadership, Disney's downfall likely started with the insane hiring practices amongst its executives and creative teams. One of their top senior vice presidents claims that they not only discriminate against white men when recruiting and hiring middle management, they actually give bonuses for hiring and retaining employees that are specifically not white. According to these videotapes, Disney blatantly discriminates against white men in particular. Not a week goes by without a news headline about...
Now, I do want to say this. There is actually a California law that you need a certain amount of diversity on your corporate boards. So that is a thing, too. That's not a Disney thing. That is actually a California law. So Just some food for thought there.
Potential medical supply shortages, threats to our infrastructure or power grid. And you remember what they pulled during the last pandemic. Certain medications were mysteriously out of stock. No way will I ever let that happen again. In today's unpredictable world, it's all about
Like, what are we doing here? Let's fast
Buy
forward
the
his
James
little.
O'Keefe medical emergency kit.
Oh my gosh.
health/OMG.
Just in case you find
and save
yourself in a room of too
$45
many diverse people.
today when you use code OMG.
You know, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion department who's very involved in like setting standards to make sure that our shows have diversity.
Do you think like Bob has a
Can you pause
say
there for
in
one
the
second,
diversity stuff when they're casting people? Like
100%.
I think Jay wants to say something.
I mean,
for each show, for each.
not that specifically, but like,
OG
you
Wonder if you
know,
can
hey,
hear.
I want
Sorry.
to have one show.
You pause it.
Oh, I was just going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt it again, but I was just going to say, imagine going on a date with somebody and just having him ask you about DEI every single time you're trying to eat. What are we doing here?
Didn't this guy like get the, like, my antenna would have gone up.
Yeah.
I mean, the way this woman is like grilling him on, was that a Bob Iger directive? What woman does that when you're on a date? Like, this guy doesn't see through this?
I don't know.
Come on, Michael.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, sorry, I was just gonna say, sometimes on a date you want to impress someone, and maybe she wanted to hear that.
Right, and he's like, "All right, you know, she's cute. You know, I'm gonna say what I need to say to, you know."
And I'm sorry that, you know, especially there are certain people out there that they want to get the hard story. You know, they'll flaunt, they'll flirt, they'll put out a little bit. You know, it's like, you know, again, you don't know what went on prior to these recordings. You know, depending on what a woman would say to me, man, I'd be spilling the beans like crazy.
There is a scene in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dennis does this exact same thing when he goes on dates. Whether the person's on the left or the right, he just completely agrees and repeats the exact same thing that person is saying.
That's great. That's a great show, by the way. I love that show.
Iger even has a chief diversity officer. Now, up until recently, that was Latondra Newton, who played a...
Iger even has a chief diversity officer, because that's unheard of for these Hollywood studios. Because I'm sure Comcast Universal would never, you know what I'm saying? And spoiler, they absolutely do.
Yes, every media company, they have their own website that you can look at and talk about DEI. Even Tesla has that.
Yeah, my company.
Chick-fil-A had it.
Yeah, exactly. My company, I'm in California. The company I work for, my 9 to 5, has all that same stuff. This is like, in California, this is very, very normal. But he's painting it like even Bob Iger has his DEI, you know, department. It's like, okay.
Big part in dragging Disney full bore into its losing culture war by promoting discriminatory hiring practices and introducing gay, lesbian, transgender, non-binary, and other characters into Disney's children's animated series and films.
It's like an all-across thing, like all of HR. There's like that one specific person that kind of like.
Can you pause there?
Yeah.
Because I forgot.
Again, he's saying that Bob Iger is hiring these diverse people, yet most of it happened. You know, if you were looking at it, it was Bob Chapek who spoke out, saying that they were going to do that, not Bob Iger. And a lot of the content, if you're counting these content as woke and because of it, they were done again by Bob Chapek, not Bob Iger. A lot of the stuff that Bob Iger has done is not even in effect yet.
Yeah, no, it's true. We talk a lot about that on the channel, where there's a lag in content. The content we see today is really a product of 3 and 4 years ago. I mean, Jay, you know, you're a filmmaker. I mean, it takes years for these things to go through development, especially these big budget films and shows like this. I mean, you know, the shows you're seeing today is stuff that was being worked on in 2021, 2020. You know.
Yeah, and let's be fair, some of the content that Disney has come out with, some of the content that Netflix has come out with, some of the content that Comcast has come out with, Universal, pick your studio, they've all gone too far into what I would call the non-general audience's level of acceptance in terms of what the subject matter is about. So, you know, this isn't to say that they haven't overstepped the bounds of what the general public wants to see. But again, what happens is we take all of the variables out, and instead of saying the general public is really not on board with this kind of thing and that kind of thing and this other kind of thing, what we instead say is it's woke, which is it's a shorthand that's actually not very helpful to understanding what the studios need to do to attract a wider audience. And it's just one of those things where we could talk about that all day long, and people are going to have their own opinions based on whatever their ideology is.
Absolutely.
The lady's name, she's the head of the.
Oh, I know you're talking about the head of the
African American lady. Yeah. So is that like kind of her deciding?
She
that?
oversees a lot of that for sure. But it's pretty broad, I would say. There are other people in HR who are also focused on that. I would say a relatively large percentage of our top writer creators happen to be there, and a lot of
Just by happenstance.
I mean, like, just like if you say whatever, I don't know, whatever 10 or 15% of the population is there, I would guess that 30 to 35% of our top writers are going to be, gay. And so I think a lot of them lean into trans stories more than the average straight writer would.
And in an odd twist, you have to be a white Jewish guy to be.
I just have to say something. I'm not like really good with math. It's not like my best forte. But if you have 10 to 15% of the population who is gay, but you're going to have 30 to 35% of writers who are gay. I don't know. Am I missing something with the?
What he's saying is the population. There's a certain percentage of the population that's LGBTQ, and Disney's.
Oh, I see. 30 to 35% of the group in Disney.
Right. Is a bigger representation in Disney than it is in the general public. Is what he was saying.
Gotcha. Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Considered for a C-suite job. More on that next week. But now let's meet Los Angeles-based Michael Giordano, a white male and Walt Disney's Senior Vice President of Business Affairs.
I do.
He went by that guy. Can you go back real quick and pause it on the guy's job description?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit more because he just flashed it up there for 2 seconds.
Giordano, a white male.
There he is. Okay.
Yeah, no, the next one that comes up because he actually has a paragraph.
Yeah, the next.
Walt Disney's Senior Vice President.
Right there. He leads a team of 3 to 4 negotiators and oversees deal-making strategy for 20th century content at Disney Plus, Disney branded television, National Geographic, and third-party platforms. He's a salesperson.
Exactly what you said,
That's
Jay.
exactly what that person is. So why does he have a senior vice president title? So he can get people on the phone that he wants to get on the phone. So that's a really fancy way of saying that he does deals with that he's a business developer. He's in business development. He's a salesperson.
You called it 100%.
Business Affairs.
I do business affairs, so negotiations for television.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. That's really
So
cool.
not really on the creative side. So it's a lot of it is knowing the guild agreements and the union agreements and everything. Make offers for the writers and the actors who are going to be out working on the show, and the producers and the directors, and try to get to a place where we can close a deal with them, help the production to budget, and so much of my job is just the negotiating room. And then other people are doing kind of the drafting of the contracts. So,
Every time I see the line, I'm cracking up because of George. That's funny. I didn't even notice that really the first time around. I mean, I guess I saw it, but I didn't think about it. But
that was one of the first things I noticed when I watched this thing. I was like, okay, they're getting a little bit, a little bit done in the tube with the sauce.
Here we go. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, what's the negotiating like?
I'm sitting down trying to figure out, okay, what are we gonna pay this actor for this role? What do we think they want?
Oh wow.
Kind of strategize that. Everything from how you produce a show, how you distribute a show, how you exhibit a show, how you market a show, things like that. All of the negotiations and deal making related to it.
Yeah.
Actually two of our brave undercover journalist and American swiper investigative reporters met Michael on the dating app Hinge. And aside from this story, which focused on Disney's overt discrimination against white men, you'll see later on in this report, and it'll be quite entertaining, Michael turns out to be quite the ladies' man.
How long have you been on like dating out?
Not very long.
Have you been going out with
Not a lot. Not a lot.
anything like worth?
You know what's funny? No.
Let's dig right into Disney's
What was that about?
blatant
Just character
practices of
assassinate this guy?
discrimination.
Well, so yeah, I was wondering the same thing, Jay. So are they? So he, from what I'm kind of gathering here, O'Keefe is saying this guy is quite the ladies' man. I'm assuming he's going to get into the evidence of this, right?
Well, I think he's just exactly. But then he like makes a joke about it, like this guy's got no riz because he didn't. I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I don't get it. It just seemed like he was just like, yeah, he's the ladies' man, and then he just went on a few dates here and there and didn't find anything worthwhile. I don't know. I don't get that.
Yeah, interesting.
If you're wondering how Disney as a company looks at race, gender, and discrimination in the hiring process,
Actually, let's go back. It's going to bug me. Hold on one second.
Distribute a show, you exhibit a show, you market a show, things like that. All of the negotiations and deal making related to it.
Yeah.
one, well, actually two of our brave undercover journalist and American swiper investigative reporters met Michael on the dating app Hinge.
By the way,
aside from this story, which focused on...
Sure.
I want to point this out too. They've already said he's not part of the creative, right? Which is absolutely true.
Right.
But these kinds of roles are actually instrumental to the way that the Walt Disney Company and 20th Century Fox make money. Because this is how you have to. So what's going to happen here is that let's just say he's working. I think he's working on the television side, right?
Right.
With the math that's going to be played out here is what kind of advertisements are we going to get on this show? If it's going to streaming, how many new subscribers or what kind of retention do we think we can get from streaming? And then they're going to come up with a cost that guy's going to try and go out and negotiate to be able to sell that product. So he's the kind of person that I want to talk to. If I'm going to get my film and I want my film made, I want my film on Disney Plus and streaming or something like that, I'm going to want to talk to Michael. So he's not a. I don't mean to demean the role by saying it's a sales role. It is a sales role and it is a negotiation kind of role, but it makes Hollywood run. So I'm sure this dude makes bank because, I mean, these are like some of the most important people in the industry from a profitability standpoint.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
On Disney's overt discrimination against white men, you'll see later on in this report, and it'll be quite entertaining, Michael turns out to be quite the ladies' man.
How long have you been on like dating out?
Not very long.
Have you been going out with?
Not a lot.
See, okay, here's the thing, and he said he's going to get into it later on, so my opinion might change. But O'Keefe said he turns out to be quite the ladies' man. Then this guy is lying to this girl, I'm assuming, saying, oh, not a lot. So I almost feel like they're making him out to be a liar, but we're supposed to believe him with everything else then? I don't understand what the point of that was. If you're trying to sell us on this idea that this guy is so credible, but now you're basically admitting he's lying about how many women he's dated on these apps.
Or you're just making fun of him? Like you're making fun of him like he's a ladies' man, but he's really not because he barely ever goes out or anything. It's just weird. It's a very strange tactic.
Yeah, it is. It is bizarre.
A lot.
Anything like worth?
You know what's funny? No.
Let's dig right into Disney's blatant practices of discrimination. If you're wondering how Disney as a company looks at race, gender, and discrimination in the hiring process, about how they recruit and hire talent, look no further.
I think there are times when it's like so front and center. It's like great because that's the focus, you know. Like we have so many shows where we're casting and we're like, yeah, we're not even going to see, you know, certain people for it because we need that particular role.
But is that something
that's what I was just going to say. That's what you would do if you're looking for Tiana, like a character for a person to play Tiana. You're going to kind of go for someone that resembles Tiana, or for Cinderella, or for Aladdin. It's like,
right?
I don't know.
And isn't this sort of the thing that's been a thing for as long as Hollywood's been around, right? Seymour, go ahead, Seymour.
You know, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, you're not gonna hire a white voice actor to be Pocahontas, right? That just seems weird. So you would hire the people that should be for those roles. I'm very confused.
Yeah,
Disney has been doing this from the beginning, right? Like George said, Aladdin, you know, Pocahontas, Mulan. I mean, like, and then you remember you got the backlash from Lilo and Stitch. Like, what?
Yeah, no, it's pretty strange.
You wouldn't believe it. We can't hire the white guy to replace Anthony Anderson in Blackish. Like, come on, like, what do you think they're gonna do?
It's wild. It's wild. Yeah. It's so scandalous. So scandalous.
Yeah. So is it intentional that they want, like, they only look for diverse candidates for certain roles?
Yeah. I think.
Why does it seem like honest? Can I say this? This is like the fourth time, like, she keeps on pointing the camera down to his crotch.
Right, exactly. But this is the thing. Okay, so do they look for diversity in certain roles? Yeah, at times. Yeah, because certain roles require certain things, and certain genders or certain nationalities or races or whatever. That's normal casting stuff. Like, I don't understand what this is about. This is really, it's just, I don't know. It seems kind of like a non-story story.
It's just good for society and a big move. But there's also a belief that, like, we're going to make more money if we appeal to a wider variety of people. And it's a good thing because we have shareholders too, you know. And so diversity helps with that.
Diversity helps with financial incentive.
Yeah.
So is it like, do you think it's more so on that side, or using, like, any good prices gets put to use? Or
regardless, I think it gives them regardless. But I think that there are, like, even conservative people who may not want to lean into it can easily make the argument that, like, we make more money when we appeal to a wider variety of people.
I just want to point out that he doesn't seem certain with his answers. He's always saying, I think, well, yeah.
Right.
And honestly, I have to say too, I can kind of somewhat believe that he doesn't really go out on full dates a lot, because if this is the kind of conversation you're having on your date, like, the whole entire time, like, I wouldn't want a second date.
Well, I would just be, from Michael's perspective, if I was on a date, I work for Disney, I want a date, and my date is drilling me like this. Well, is this a Bob Iger directive? I'm like, red flag after red flag. Like, Michael, come on, bro. Like, wake up, dude.
But this guy's only been on 2 dates with 2 different people from James O'Keefe's organization. He's like, what's it like to date in modern America, dude? I gotta answer questions about Bob Iger? Holy cow.
Well,
And that means diversity.
Yeah.
There's a real focus on every show. And I'm sure the movies too, that I don't deal with that side of it. So, just making sure that the writer's room has a real, diversity, not just gender or sexual orientation and ethnicity.
Can you pause here?
But, making sure.
So he's talking about how he doesn't know the movie side because he works for TV, but he works for not the Disney side. He works for the 20th Century side.
right. And he's been with them for 11 years, long before Disney bought him.
Yeah, exactly. I started 2016, if I believe.
Right. So isn't that funny? Yeah, it's a great point. And what's wrong with having a diversity of perspectives in the writer's room? I don't understand why that's a negative thing. Like, don't you want? I don't know. You would want that. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say, I think this whole thing, they're called American Swipers, and this is basically a hit piece that's not really against Disney. It's a hit piece against Hinge. This is just a giant Tinder ad, is what this is.
Exactly.
That's what this is.
Hey, if you ever get on a dating app and some girl is like drilling you about Bob Iger and woke, run.
They're hiring some writers who they have certain disabilities, but they want to hire. Since there's kind of a really broad look whenever we're doing that to make sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, just really quick, OG.
Yeah.
Like, this guy literally didn't say anything against Disney in what he just said. He just said there's a good reason for why Disney does what it does, and it's actually a company reason about trying to make more money by something that we've talked about on the Orange Grove 55 channel multiple times. When you are a company that is making 4-quadrant filmmaking, you want as many people to show up to your content as possible. And so this is not even surprising or controversial.
Exactly. I don't see that. I don't see the scandal here, really. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they talk a big game about DEI, but do they actually do it? Apparently so. They even passed over a qualified half-black person for a promotion because they didn't look black enough.
Yeah.
We had a situation where we wanted to hire somebody in the department a few years ago now, who was half black, but didn't appear half black. And there was a creative executive who was like, "We're not that's not what's wrong."
They wanted the full.
They wanted somebody in meetings who would appear a certain way, and he wasn't gonna bring that to the meeting.
And so this
Dude,
is
how
like
uncomfortable
on
is that? That the guy who just put a glass down in front of him looked like he might have been black, and he's like, and he's sitting there and be like, let me change my words up slightly. That is so uncomfortable.
See, and that's where it's lost for me in that sense. As far as for auditioning and acting and portraying a certain role, I can understand. But because that this person wasn't black enough to sit in a chair during a board meeting, and it wasn't what they were looking for, to me, that if that is the case or not, I'm sorry. That is just, as you guys said earlier, that's definitely a lawsuit and a half.
Well, and Jay brought that up too. He said this is definitely optics wise, and again, we don't know the context with any of this stuff. This is just Michael after a few glasses of wine, right? But
where you paused it, his face. This should be the new meme after all this broke out.
Right, exactly. But despite all that, this is definitely the worst. I think this makes Disney look the worst. This part right here. Yeah. With the half black employee, not a good look. If again it's true, and if we, if it is what it sounds like, that's not good.
Which by the way is a complete reversal of the point of this video. If you just showed this clip, it'd be like Disney is hiring more diverse people because it's better for them from a profitability standpoint. And honestly, I think they kind of messed up because we didn't hire a person who was half black, half white, that they didn't look right. I mean, that is what would be called a progressive video. You're releasing a progressive video being like, Disney didn't go far enough. The other thing I have to say, again, O'Keefe's leaving this out. If you look at the reports of actual diversity in the workplace on the creative side, Disney is still not actually achieving some of the goals that it wanted to achieve based on its own company culture video that we watched from 2020. So like O'Keefe is trying to say that Disney is this giant woke company and they're not even hiring anything, but the actual statistics prove him wrong.
Right.
So it's just
weird stuff.
Corporate side, the business side.
Never understood that. Is it cause I know a lot, I have a lot of black friends who are not as dark as So do they care about that, or is the ethnicity actually?
They say they don't care about it, but the truth is, to some extent, they do. If you're mixed, but you don't look black at all, which sometimes happens, then they're like, "Oh, I'm not so sure." But if you're mixed and you can tell somebody's part black, but they're not that black, so, okay.
Can I just say something? I'm sorry. How naive and desperate do you have to be that you went on these multiple dates and you had the same exact conversation with two different women in the same kind of context? I'm sorry, but you can't. For you to be an executive or whatever the hell, or as Jay sells it, a salesman, that you're going to work for Fox and everything. Honestly, you have to have some sort of common sense.
Yeah. I'm telling you, if I was on a date and this woman was doing this to me, I would immediately think something was up. It's so obvious.
I'll say something. I would take the counterpoint to George's point, because I actually feel bad for this guy. This guy is being illegally recorded. This is going to hurt his career. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Disney, 20th Century Fox, I would not be surprised if they let him go. He might have legal recourse because he was being recorded without his knowledge. But yes, he should have had red flags go up. I bet you if we were to get him on the show, he would be like, let me tell you some additional information about the context of what's going on here. They set me up. This is the way that they set me up. And yes, I was a little bit desperate, and I thought that these were weird questions, but I was just trying to make the date go well. So part of me is like, man, they just did this guy so dirty. Like, imagine if you were in his position. You've worked yourself up into a pretty good job. You're probably making bank. You get to fund a lot of movies that get made, and then you turn around and all of a sudden have somebody do a hit piece on you.
No, I do agree with you in the sense of like how they did it. I mean, as I said, I don't give no credit to O'Keefe and these two women or whoever they are, one iota. But again, if you're going to take a role into a company, you also have to know your boundaries of what you're saying and who you're saying it to.
Sure.
Because this is also, again, this wasn't a one-time thing where it was like, oh, I was set up. He literally, this was multiple dates that he went on with the same questions in the same context. You couldn't put two and two together of working for this multi-billion-dollar company to say, oh, I should keep my mouth shut now.
Yeah, but you're right, George. But I also see Jay's point too, where like we've been saying the whole video, context matters. So in Michael's defense, you know, there's probably a ton of context here that we're also missing. In his defense, you know.
Well,
what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There is more that's missing. Definitely, we're just seeing clips. I'm just saying that if I was working for a multi-billion-dollar company, my lips would be pursed.
Yeah, no, I know. He's singing like a bird, bro.
I'm sorry.
But
see,
apparently,
for
Meghan
me,
Markle.
for me, this is my thing that I've learned when dealing with women, and especially out on dates.
Here we go.
There's several several conversations that you do not have. And that is your personal matter with your job until you find out actually, you know, who they are. Personal matters with your job, politics, religion, and everything else. Other than that, you're golden.
You're golden. You're
Is black enough? You can't make this up.
So would like Meghan Markle, who's pretty white,
Right. Yeah.
would she be considered?
She would still
like,
be
diverse,
She would.
or
Huh? As a white guy, even Michael has his own doubts about the possibility for advancement for himself at Disney, saying, quote, as far as Disney is concerned, I'm a white male.
Now I'm like a half step below a department head. I have a team under me, but I don't oversee a whole department. And I'd like to oversee a whole, whether that's a Disney
Not
or
anymore.
So,
Okay. Do you think that you'll have opportunity at Disney?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think I'm sort of like well prepared for it. I'm well positioned for it. But as far as Disney's concerned, I'm a white male. And that's not who they're looking at promote at the moment.
In fact, Michael actually got to experience Disney's discrimination against white males firsthand.
So,
Do you think that has a lot to do with it?
I don't know a lot, but it's something to do with it.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think the competition is?
Oh, I mean, I've been up for jobs internally against people who have less experience than me, and you know, haven't gotten.
Okay. And they were given to somebody else. Do you think it had?
But here's the thing. This has been going on forever, and you don't know why those other people were chosen. It's not necessarily this nefarious thing like he's a white guy. There could be a million reasons why these other people were chosen over him that have nothing to do with race. And he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
It's the qualifications that I always go by.
Well, it's qualifications, and there's a lot of soft skills involved too, like in certain positions where you're dealing with people, and maybe these other candidates were just better suited in that department as well. There's 1,000 reasons why he was skipped over, but he went straight to like, well, I'm the white guy. It's like, well, I don't know. You know,
Well, that's where I always feel like that's always the scapegoat, no matter what it is. Like there were jobs growing up, in my years that I got turned on for. It never crossed my mind to say, "Oh, I wonder if it was because I was a white guy," or "I wonder if it was because of that." Like I don't think of that. It's just like I got passed over for this job. They might have found someone who had better qualifications than I did. You move on and you keep looking.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen it and Seymour brought it up very early on in the show. We've seen promotions where people like Sean Bailey, he got replaced by another white guy. Like, I don't understand this notion of like, oh, I'm just a poor white guy. I just can't make it at Disney. It's
now I will say to the opposite notion of that. I do know for women, that was a whole nother different story, because I do know that women in the workforce was getting underpaid for their positions that the male counterpart, so to speak, was getting more than they were, and they had to fight on that to get the equal amount. So that I could definitely understand.
Yeah.
We're also listening to this under, look, you can't even admit testimony. Or you can maybe admit it. I'm not a lawyer, but you can't. It's hard to convict people without two witnesses. We're hearing from one guy, and this might be his actual lived experience, right? So he might actually, like he's saying, he might have been passed up, and he felt like he had better experience than those people. They might have been making a different decision with different criteria, which is their right to do. And if they said to themselves, like, yeah, technically Michael has some more experience in these areas, but this other person brings something to the table that Michael doesn't bring to the table, but this is true. This is the thing that I keep thinking about as we watch this video. I keep thinking about, like, the guy hasn't said anything that is super damning to Disney, except for he gave the example of the person who didn't get hired, who was half black and half white. That's the most damning thing that he's said. But that's also an isolated story that's not necessarily unfactual, right? Like I just feel like this guy hasn't said anything that's like super damning on any front. He's just a guy that you had a conversation. Any one of us could have said any things like these kinds of things in any kind of situation that we were in an isolated incident where someone's asking us really bizarro questions for that kind of environment. I don't know. It strikes me as just very, very strange.
That's what I'm saying, Jay. I wouldn't have that because this falls into the category as everything else.
Oh, everything. Oh, with the women. Oh, okay, I got you.
Something to do with their
one or two cases, I was told very explicitly that it is. Yeah.
explicitly how? What did they tell you?
I mean, I've been at the company 11 years now, so I have friends in HR and I have friends in those divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike. But
11 years, long before Disney bought them. Go ahead, Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Because he started in 2016 at Fox, not Disney. But okay. I just wanted to point that out. It wasn't 11 years at Disney.
Right, exactly. And it shows you how this is the norm in Hollywood. I mean, Fox was doing it. He was here for a long time. Disney's doing it. This is how these studios operate, but it's painted like this is a Disney exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
They're not considering any white males for the shot. They're just not. That's not what they want.
And so it's probably fair that Disney would say, we don't want a white person to play this role.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're very careful about they're very careful about messaging because they don't want to get to open discrimination in either direction. But certainly there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
how would they say it?
There's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Like straight to you, or okay?
They're very careful how they message that to agents.
In like email or whatever.
But
After getting a dose of Disney's,
I have something that I
himself,
really want to say something,
seems
but
like-
I'm not going to go there.
Michael may have been hit with a reality check that discrimination against people based upon race is probably not cool.
I mean, it kind of feels like we're, at some point there's going to be a lawsuit. That's kind of how it feels, just because of,
And that is a lawyer talking. Now, could
Yeah,
it
but
get
is he
worse?
saying
It
that? Is he
actually
saying that?
does.
Hang on a second.
No.
Is he saying that from the context of he just finished talking about the half black, half white person?
That was the same clip. That was
exactly.
about yes.
They made it seem like it was about like white people are going to sue Disney. Like that's not what he feels like he was trying to talk about in that context.
Right, exactly. The editing, I'm telling you, and O'Keefe has been criticized for this before with the editing, the little clips and the way he positions everything. And
I just want to state something.
Sure.
People in Canada that I spoke to, friends and family, we don't know who this guy is. I just want to state that outside of America, I'd never heard of this guy before in the media or anything. Is this an American thing?
Yeah, it is. And he's gotten in. He's had stuff with like Acorn and things like that, where he gets involved in a lot of like political, like American politics stuff. So, but people like your friends and family have no idea who he is in Canada.
No, and people I have friends who are outside of Canada, like, who is this guy?
Well, and here's the thing too, Seymour. I feel like this whole video is like, if you're part of the Disney's woke crowd, you're gonna buy into this and see evidence. Yeah. And if you're like someone who doesn't really buy into it, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, it very much. What I'm trying to say here is I don't think it moves the needle a whole lot. No. You know what I'm saying? I think it's sort of like, okay, if you think that Disney's woke and they're this, that, and the other, you're still going to believe that after this. And if, I don't think a lot of of the normies or the general public are really swayed by this. I don't think they're making a super great case, is what I'm trying to say.
Not only does Disney discriminate against white men, it gives management bonuses to hire DEI candidates over white men, totally disregarding their level of qualification, as long as they're not white. You heard me correctly. A part of some executives' compensation package is based on hiring and retaining black hires. We saw this in the case of IBM. America First Legal has launched a lawsuit. Many people coming out of the woodwork from IBM, from these Fortune 500 companies, all saying they've experienced this. We are certain to hear from people inside Disney who've made these claims. Many people here in Los Angeles, here in Hollywood, very afraid of Disney, very afraid of retaliation against their creative productions or movies or films or jobs for speaking about this truth. But if you have been a victim of discrimination, please reach out to OMG.
I see a white guy walking back
Foundation.
here.
You saw a white guy?
I saw a white guy walking back there. He came out of the arches.
Also, did you notice what he just literally said? He literally just said, other companies have done this, and then said, so Disney must be doing it too. Like, that is wild speculation. That's ridiculous.
Right? Yeah, no, exactly, Jay.
OMG, take your privacy back. Unplug.com.
Oh man.
OMG.
I mean, HR keeps an
take your privacy back as he's recording this guy secretly. Holy shit, dude! What is that about?
Wow. Take your privacy back. Meanwhile, we got a hidden cam.
I love it. Though. If you actually go back, like it literally cuts from that to this.
I know.
Hold on. Let's do it. Here we go.
Unplug.com/OMG. That's unplug.com/OMG. Take your privacy back. Unplug.com/OMG.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Now, I actually do have a special drop just for that for Mr. O'Keefe. There we go. One more. There we go.
Yeah.
What kind of spreadsheet?
I mean, I haven't seen it exactly, but I mean, literally, they have stats. 17% of our executives at this level identify as XYZ. 40% of our executives at this level identify as.
But he even said he hasn't even actually seen the spreadsheets.
Well, and don't all companies collect data like that? I mean, I've as long as I've been alive, and when I fill out applications or any kind of medical thing or whatever, they always ask you your race or they know your gender and all that. Like, so all these companies have had your data or the makeup of their customers or what have you for as long as I can remember. So again, it's not really like a super scandalous thing here that like they know that 17% are X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay,
And we saw that in that from that 2020 video, Disney has goals related to moving the needle in some of those areas. So obviously they're going to track those at some point. They probably are tracking them right now.
Exactly.
They have goals that they're trying to. They want
exactly
a certain
what I said.
percentage of diversity here, a certain percentage
Right.
of diversity there.
But are these these are open goals? Because you're saying they can't say it in such specific terms. So are they open goals?
They are open goals at a senior enough level.
So how does Disney explain pushing these discriminatory practices to the people that they work with? Well, according to Michael Giordano, it seems like it's a sensitive issue, and they use code words and buzzwords.
I'm guessing that there is a
Wait,
Key word here.
Guessing?
I'm guessing.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't know? I'm very confused.
I'm guessing. So we're speculating here, but we're gonna take him at his like the gospel. It's
Remember,
wild.
he's working for 20th Century, not for a division at Disney.
Exactly, Seymour.
multiple code words and buzzwords that are used to explain what they're looking for. They might say something like, look, we're not looking at like the usual suspects for this job. So it's like not like a legally actionable thing, but everybody knows what it means.
According to Michael, even Disney's human resources agencies are on board with these practices. All right, guys, do you know what the code words are for the discriminatory hiring practices? Do you work in HR?
Is that a white guy?
That's a white guy.
That might be Pete Doctor, dude.
Maybe.
No?
You watch Inside Out.
You familiar with the buzzwords? They don't know what I'm talking about now, but they will soon.
They, for writers and actors, we'll hear all the time, like, I'm looking to hire writers and actors who bring diversity. I'm not looking to bring on any more clients who are so there's definitely that focus.
Disney even has an internal organization such as 20th Action Group, whose sole purpose is to promote discriminatory DEI hiring practices and to push bizarre characters. And
so let me ask a question. 20th Action Group, was that in place? And maybe he'll get into it. Hopefully he will and provide some context. But was that in place after Disney bought 20th Century Fox, or was that in place before? Because Disney just recently acquired this company. It's only I think 4 or 5 years. I think they officially got it in 2019, right, Seymour, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, around the same time like Disney Plus was launched.
Right. So it's like, okay, so 20th Century Fox has this action thing, whatever. But when was that put into motion? That kind of makes a difference here if we're going to smear Disney to know when that was put in place. Was it an Iger thing? Was it a Chapek thing? Or was it before they even bought him? But we'll see if he actually gives us that context. He probably won't.
Storylines on children. The question is, can the people just come to work, make their cartoons, and do the discrimination elsewhere? But apparently not on CEO Bob Iger's watch. So how is prioritizing these DEI practices over hiring merit-based talent worked out for Disney shareholders, you might ask? Well, over the past 5 years, the S&P index is up over 88%, and Disney is down almost 30%, making that once golden brand one of Wall Street's biggest disappointments.
Seymour, I know you're an investor. You've been following this stuff for a long time. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, when the stock was at the peak, Disney was actually doing its worst, and now Disney's doing much better, but the stock is down. A lot of it has to do with sentiment and not actual fundamentals of the company. So the profits and the money they're making, we have streaming now that's profitable, and revenues have been going up year over year. Now we have Inside Out 2, rumored to be over $1 billion hit. So this company is going back on its feet. But at the peak of the stock, when it reached, I remember because I owned Disney stock at that time, was at $200, and I actually sold because I'm like, this is ludicrous. Why are we pumping the stock? Because the parks are going to open in China. And I'm like, and they're losing money because of that. And a lot of the movie theaters are still half open, and some of them were closed. in my area, it was still closed. We still had COVID. We had weird issues. And then when it got opened up, I wanted to see Spider-Man. Like, you had to go every other seat. The ticket sales were bad. It was really bad. It was a bad time for Disney. And even even the parks that were open, it was like, a quarter of it was open, and then it got to a half open, and then and then 2/3, and then they fully opened. It took a slow pace to get back to being normal, but they're not adding the context as to the fundamentals of the stock. They just see a price, and a lot of people do this on X. You see it, oh, the stock has dropped. Yeah, but that's short-term sentiment. It has nothing to do with the actual company and the fundamentals. You have to look at over 10 years and above to see. And you see with Bob Iger, before 2020, he's been doing, great work, and the stock has been going up. But now apparently he's doing bad work because the stock is going down, and in less than 2 years.
And just a comment really quick here, Seymour. Correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the S&P performance, if I'm not mistaken, has been predominantly around the rampant growth of the AI companies, right? Like, if you track like why the S&P is so high, it's because of like 7 different companies that are just driving that super, super duper high. If you remove those companies, the whole S&P drops considerably. Yeah,
they call that the Mag 7. You have Meta, you have Amazon, not Tesla. Tesla's down like 40%, but nobody wants to tell you that since the peak. But that's not how you should be measuring the stock. Right. Like, the same people who say Disney is, go woke, go broke, are the same people who's owning Tesla stocks and not saying anything about it going down at its peak, saying that you shouldn't be looking at that, which is, you shouldn't. It's short-term sentiment, not the actual fundamentals. But yeah, those 5. But then you don't actually look at the media industry. You don't look at Warner Brothers Discovery down year to date, like 30, 40%. Like, nobody wants to see that. They just want to see Disney down, and that's it.
Right, exactly, and that's why that's left out of this. If you actually brought up the Warner Brothers numbers, you would see that it maybe Big Mouse isn't so bad after all. Go ahead, Seymour.
Oh, I was just trying to pull up something real quick.
Sure.
So Bud Light stock, remember how people were saying that was gonna go? They had that controversy, right? They hit a low, like at $53, and now it's back up again. They said it was going to crash. They're going to go out of business. No, because that was short-term sentimental, and they're now pivoting back up because, the fundamentals actually coming through. And you're going to see that with Disney as well, with the streaming, with the movies, especially with now. I think 2024 is going to be Disney's year with hit after hit after hit. Mm-hmm. And then what are you going to say? Disney is a company that's destroying itself when everyone is buying into Disney?
It makes no sense, and we talked about it a lot, Seymour, on this channel. We've never really bought into. Look, Disney has PR issues, and no doubt about that. But I think when it comes to like this narrative of like this kind of like this brand damage, that I remember seeing all that stuff like on social media where people were saying there's deep brand damage at Disney that's going to take years to rebuild. Years. That's what the narrative was. Years to rebuild. And people are staying away from Disney movies, and this is going to take years to get back on track for Disney. And then Inside Out comes out, and the pre-sale numbers are bonkers for it. People didn't even see the thing; they're already buying their tickets for it. And I'm like, it's one of the biggest movies, to open. And and it's like, okay, what happened to this brand damage that's going to be so hard to climb out of? People are just over it magically now. Now they're buying Inside Out too, and we're all good with Disney. Like, it goes to show you, it had nothing to really do for the normies. The bulk of it was just about finding the right movie to go see with their kids. It wasn't about Disney as a corporation. It was just about, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take my kids to see Wish. It doesn't look that good. I'll take them to see this one though, because the first Inside Out was great. I think as deep as it goes for so many normies. You know what I'm saying?
And like Jay was saying before, there's like a lot of different points. It's not just a linear issue. Like you could be saying that the movie theaters are too expensive. I don't want to go. I'll wait for streaming. Or, okay, this is not an IP that I'm familiarized. I won't go see it. I'll wait for streaming. Or things like that, right? Or for example, like Super Mario Brothers. It's a familiar IP. Barbie, familiar IP. Avatar 2, familiar IP. They do great. You go and see it. You're willing to risk your money to see that movie because you know it's good. but Wish not so much. So you're like, okay, I'll wait, and then you see it's successful at the Nielsen charts for it being number one in the movie charts.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man. It's
but they
crazy.
do have issues. I'm not saying like these movies that Disney made. No company is perfect. They all have their issues. Even big companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they all had their issues. They all had a point where the stock was going down, the sentiment was bad. They had to bring back Steve Jobs because of that. And then Microsoft, they Value Act kicked out the CEO. Nintendo, they flopped with the Wii U. And then unfortunately the CEO passed away before the Switch came in. But then they're now succeeded. So like all these companies, people said they're gonna get destroyed. No, they pivot back in. These companies, at the end of the day, they want to make money, and they're not gonna destroy their own company.
Yeah. No. Well said. Well said.
Yes, the disaster that Disney has become is probably the most glaring example of what happens when you prioritize DEI over talent content creators and executives who truly know how to build value. So will Disney turn it all around and hire or promote based upon merit? We shall see. This is just part one. We got another tape coming out next week. This is a multiple part.
And I will say that's extremely insulting to the people of color that work at Disney to say, basically what he's saying is that they're not hiring you for your merit. They're hiring you for,
the color of your skin, basically.
Right. And it's like, just because you want a more diverse workplace doesn't mean that these people are coming in there with no experience, no qualifications. They just, oh, you're hired like that. And that's kind of the way they're painting this. These are like, these people don't know what they're doing. They were just hired because they were a person of color. And I find that extremely, extremely insulting. I don't know. It's kind of gross, dude. It really is.
Series. I spoke with Michael Giordano. You'll see that soon.
Are you guys on a date?
We are.
You have nothing to say?
Haven't seen you in.
Oh, we got a part 2 coming, huh? Okay, guys. Well, we have to do another reaction video. Let's see. But interesting conversation. I'll start with you, Jay, and I'll work my way around it. Any final thoughts, Jay, on what we saw today?
Yeah, a few final thoughts. One, I just feel like I'm really tired of this, what we're calling evidence. Like, evidence should have a classification system to it, and none of the evidence that we're seeing here is viable evidence. The only actionable quote unquote evidence that we've seen is that we have one person who was involved in a hiring decision where a half black, half white person was not hired because they weren't black enough. That's the only piece of evidence that we can condemn anybody on in this whole video, which is the exact opposite of what O'Keefe is actually trying to prove. So it just feels to me like you set a guy up, you got him to speculate on some things, you got him to talk about how some of the things work, you cut out some of the things that he said that were probably made it more contextual, but you included some things where he actually literally said, James O'Keefe finishes this video by saying, if only the shareholders could decide what's going to make money. The guy just said they hired the diverse people because they wanted to make money. Like what? Like the evidence that you're presenting here is not leading towards a conclusion that anybody has reached, except for the people who wanted to reach that conclusion before they watched your video.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying, Jay. And you said it perfectly, where it's like the people that are already on this kind of like Disney's woke train, they're going to eat this up and treat it like evidence. But, the people that are more kind of in that gray area are going to, I think, kind of see it for kind of, what it is. So yeah. Interesting stuff.
And Seymour, to Seymour's comment, I agree with Seymour on this. That does not mean that Disney doesn't have issues, that it doesn't need to fix. And I think that Bob Iger has already acknowledged that. He's already said we need to moderate a little bit in some areas. Like I've said a million times on this show, my biggest problem with Disney is not the actual content so much as it is the conversations that the creators are having about the content, right? Like that's where it starts to get more awkward. Their PR is just not, they need to do a better job of, now that we live in a world where everybody on the creative team is getting interviewed, they need media training, and they need to have media training that says, for example, I was watching a Leslie Headland interview, and the interviewer goes, something along the lines of like, this is the gayest Star Wars. And he was being positive. He wasn't being negative. And she kind of like laughed about it and said like, yeah. And they kind of talked about it being gay for a little bit. And the way that conversation should have probably been handled was Leslie Headland said, you know what? I hope that everybody who watches this show finds somebody that they associate with in this show. Because we want to be as inclusive as possible. And you just leave it at that. No agendas, no nothing else. Just give us the content. Let us interact with the content. I mean, I don't think the Acolyte's that good, but that's a separate issue, and it has nothing to do with wokeism or anything like that. It has just me as a storyteller and my reaction to it. And we still have half the show to go, so it might improve. But that's my kind of.
I don't know. I do kind of see the Acolyte into this conversation because just like this video, the Acolyte's a complete disaster.
There you go, George. But go ahead, Jay. If you want to.
No, that's it. That's all I have to say. Like that's my summary. Is that's kind of how I feel. I feel like now I will say again, I am aware of times where it feels like the marketplace is suggesting things that would not be for the betterment of the company. So I mentioned there's some very suspect things that we've seen come out of BlackRock and how BlackRock says you need to have these DAI or we won't give you access to financial assets. And that I think that's a different kind of issue, right? So what are we actually trying to prove here, and where does the real danger hide? I mean, if you look at the companies like BlackRock, I think there's like 3 of them that own. If you look at their holdings, it's like trillions upon trillions of dollars that make up the entire U.S. economy. And they're out there saying like, well, you better do what we want or else we won't give you any money. That's where it gets more dangerous to me, because what's the regulation against those companies being able to choose some of those things? Right. But I don't see this. I don't see any major problems besides look what I mentioned before, the opposite that O'Keefe is trying to prove. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite. And also that whole situation is like, we don't like, they don't say what role it was, which I find that kind of weird. Like what role was the biracial person applying for? Because that does matter. You know what I'm saying? And also, if we're talking about like, you know, like you were saying, Jay, like admissible in court, right? Yeah. Well, we're going to need to know that. What role was it? Also, what was his blood alcohol level?
Right.
we joke about it, but that also comes into question.
It does.
What he's saying. Is he tipsy? Has he had a few too many? We don't know.
Well, and this wouldn't be admissible video in court because it was gathered illegally. They can't put this in court. A lawyer would be like, you can't put that. That was gathered illegally. So the whole thing is like it's kind of like a what's the right word? It's a kangaroo court of public opinion.
Exactly. And you're right. In California, the person being recorded needs to know they're being recorded. If any of these companies that do like call centers out here in California, you got to tell the person on the other line, just to let you know, this call can be recorded for quality assurance purposes, yada, yada, yada. It's California law.
Yep.
You know, so for her to be hiding the camera down here, you know, and recording, you're right. It's not legal.
Is that what they call it now?
Yeah, exactly, George.
But believe it or not, I think that's kind of starting to go nationally too, because I even hear that a lot. You know, this call is being recorded for quality training and purposes. They have it on the actual person you're speaking to. They have it on the automated system. So I think it's starting to become, as far as I know, nationwide. So the fact that of how it was done, it was very distasteful. The video is very choppy. It's basically a video form of the National Enquirer. It's just like it gives you information, but it's like not enough to say, okay, is this really true? They kind of diminish this guy's actually of being a man on a personal level, kind of like throwing those like little mini jabs at him of being like the ladies' man, and then showing those clips of saying, oh, well, I don't date that, much. I'm not, it's like that to me was completely, it had no relevance to what anything was about. And it
undermines his credibility. Are you saying that he's lying about being a ladies' man? So then how do we believe him on this other stuff?
Right. I agree with Jay. I feel like the only thing that would be kind of an issue as far as on Disney's behalf was the comment that they would probably have to look further into of his statement of the biracial person not being black enough to get the job. Again, based off of everything he's saying, that's still not even fully
the context isn't there, so we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they may have to even do a small investigation on their own internally in the company wise to see if that was even true. As far as the executive goes, as I said, was he played dirty? Yes. There is still part of me that I think just out of sheer ignorance of letting your guard down, which again, it's still not in the right of them to record him without. Absolutely. That's 1,010% wrong. But because we are living in this day and age where social media is everything, you know, people, in a way, I hate to say this, you have to be careful of who you talk to and what you say. It could be a life or death situation. You know, you have to take, I'm not going to compare like the Walt Disney Company to like the feds, but there are, so if you're working for a big time company, you know, you have to be careful of what you say and how you say it and who you're saying it to, because you don't know who you're saying it to.
Absolutely.
What you gonna do?
so, dude,
I knew that drop would come in handy someday. Yes.
And of course, I would break that open. But I feel like do I feel like that he did it in a negligent way? No. He was just having a conversation with a woman that he thought, you know, I mean, and now the ignorance comes in. You can't tell the difference of having two dates from the same app with the same conversation, the same kind of interrogation questions.
Yeah, I would be super suspect. Like if I was on some dating app, right? And I actually made the comment today. I'm happy being single. Like George and I are kind of pretty newly single, you know. Yeah. But I'm happy being single. I'm totally fine with. I like sometimes you just kind of need to be like just single for a little bit, you know. But
or play the field.
but here's the thing. It's like if I went on a date with someone from an app and they're grilling me on the company that I work for. So what are their hiring practices? Oh, what about this, that, and the other of the CEO? I would be like, oh, okay, you know, I think I gotta go. Check, please. You know, like it's super weird. You know what I'm saying? And and again, to be fair to Michael, we don't have the context because O'Keefe doesn't give it. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's like, come on, Michael. You know what I'm saying? This is kind of strange. What do you think, Seymour? Any final thoughts, brother?
Yes, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know this reaction video did take a bit. But I just wanted to say this whole idea, the culture of it, you know, this video that they're trying to represent Disney being woke. I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired. I see a lot of people in different fandoms. They're getting tired of it. And I see a lot of pushback from them as well. You know, people like Star Wars, they're getting you know, people are coming and commenting them, giving them hate simply just because they like the show. Today, I was talking about good news about Doctor Who, and people were coming in and attacking me because I said these ratings are pretty good. And, you know, they did that for a lot of things for Disney. If you like one attraction, but not the other, they'll attack you. I'm sick and tired of it. People are getting sick and tired of it. We want to, you know, like the brands, Disney brands, the IPs, not just Disney, other companies, right? And not just get attacked for it simply because we like it. I don't understand. I'm sick, and it's so obvious now too that they're doing this on purpose just to hate. Because like if you look at the last 3 movies that came out that were over $1 billion, they all said it was woke, and then after it was successful, so they get like the first time I saw these people coming out on X calling Mario woke because Peach was a badass wearing pants. I said she was always been a badass, and they were attacking me for that, and then Mario was successful, and then they were attacking me again because I called them out saying, hey, I thought you called them woke. Now it's not woke anymore. What's happening? And then after all of that, they're like, oh, you're a Bob Iger pixie duster getting special access. I'm like, I'm defending Nintendo. What's this have to do with Disney? I don't understand. I'm wearing a Mario hat. 80% of my wealth is in Nintendo stock. And you just call me a Bob Iger. I sold my Disney stocks for Nintendo, and I'm still being. I don't understand. And I'm seeing this everywhere now, and people are sick and tired. I see a post today of simply because of what's that one game that just came out? Tomb Raider, right? And they're making fun of her jaw. They're trying to create drama and hate, saying, "Look at her jaw. They're trying to make her trans." I'm like, what the hell is happening? We just want to enjoy a game. We don't need to put this in.
You sent me that tweet. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" You look at Laura Croft, and the first thing you think of, first thing you look at is her jaw. As a straight male, I gotta say that was not the first thing I was looking at.
And this is what I'm getting from the video.
Well, it depends on what you're into.
I'm just tired of it.
Go ahead, Seymour.
I was saying that's what I get from this video. They're trying to create this drama, and I'm just sick and tired of it. Doesn't matter which fandom, they're all doing it. And I'm seeing that because now Disney is successful, they're pivoting to other IPs. And I see they're trying to do Nintendo, saying, oh, Nintendo is trying to put trans in video games and all this, or Star Wars is woke. And I'm like, but you called House of the Dragon woke until it was successful.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Like you said, Barbie was woke until it was successful. And then you deleted all your tweets and your videos regarding Barbie.
They deleted the videos too?
Yeah, they delete the videos. People send me screenshots in the DM saying they're sick and tired of this. We have collections. Where you called House of the Dragon woke until Rings of Power came out. And then when Rings of Power came out, oh, House of the Dragon success, not woke. All the other things are good in the show. Oh, but let's forget about the incest in the show.
Oh my gosh.
We're sick and tired. I went into a space. Sorry for ranting, but...
No, you're good.
Actually, I was going to say, Seymour, tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, no.
I went into space with over like 250 people, and they were all saying that we're sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
We were sick and tired of it getting attacked, and everyone, one by one, was telling about how we're getting attacked simply because we like Star Wars.
Yeah. No, I think everyone's tired of it. I really do. I think it's gotten out of control. I think people just want to have conversations about their favorite fandom and stuff. I mean, favorite franchise or whatever. And you get in there and you just have a bunch of like, oh, you're a pixie duster because you like it.
And honestly, Seymour, of what you're describing, and this may come out as being sarcastic, but really, if you look at it through the optical lens of what you were just describing, if you take the episode, this was an older episode of South Park, Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo, where
let's go there, George. Let's go there.
Where literally the kids were putting on a Christmas pageant, and literally one parent was saying, "Oh, well, this offends me of Christmas, the Christmas tree, the Star of David, and everything." And then the whole town got involved, where it was like, "Okay, well, this offends me. This word offends me." Then the night of the pageant, what it all kind of subdued to was the children wearing these gray leotards, kind of doing like this pantomime dancing with this weird music, and people are sitting in the audience saying, "What the hell is this?" And they're like, "This is what it came down to, because you literally stripped everything, because at some point there was a person in the town that got offended by something. And then when you strip it all down to the bare bones of nothing, that's what you get."
Yeah. It's wild, man. It's
and then
wild.
Mr. Hanky comes in and saves the day.
There you go. It's good.
You know what's funny is that I saw a post. Somebody was saying that the CEO of Paramount got fired because they want to make Paramount woke.
Oh, really? That's someone posted.
Yeah, that's the reason why he got fired, because they're making it woke.
Oh man, D and on, man. You got to dive into the 4D chess, bro. Oh, gosh, it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I definitely agree with you, Seymour. I think that it's getting out of control, and I think fans are really just tired of it. They're tired of being called, shill or whatever, just because you like something, and it's crazy. But it's toxic out there. But I hopefully it gets better out there. I hope so. But we do have to
leave X. Just leave X.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a different world outside of X.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta see. That's my big weakness. I want to so bad. I just can't. I just can't quit you, X. I just can't quit
Yeah,
you.
all my friends and family, and people who don't go on X, they don't have any of these issues. Like I would consider them normies, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for social media, they might be on the occasional Instagram or Facebook, but or YouTube, but they don't go on X. They don't post on X, and they don't care what these people are saying on X. They simply don't care. And when I tell them which movies you like, they don't. This narrative of the culture war, they don't even think about that. They simply like it because they like it. That's it.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. I was saying that too for a long time. I agree with you. I think the culture war is so vastly overblown or overrated, and in these little bubbles, these little echo chambers, they think that like it's everything. But it's like I was saying it before with Spider-Verse. That movie did very well at the box office. It's a Disney brand. The soccer mom, the normies going into that movie, taking their kids to Spider-Verse, they don't know all the intricacies of the Sony Marvel deal. They're not the soccer mom or the family of four isn't going, oh, you know what? It's okay to take my kids to this one because it's actually technically Sony. No one does that. This is a nerd bubble thing that people are like, and it's just the normies are completely disconnected from this stuff. And it's not nearly as prevalent as it is in our little nerd circles or whatever, or Twitter, so it's wild. But great show to my 2 hour and 52-second crew. Thank you so much for, for hanging with us today. Jay, I will start with you, brother. It's always good having you on the show, sir.
Always a pleasure to come on the show. You can find me at How Stories Work with Jay Sherer on YouTube. Doing a lot of explainer videos. Sometimes I interview people that are storytellers making stories. So you can check me out over there, How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. Or you can check me out right here on Orange Grove 55 with the Story Geeks podcast. And I am hoping to get the final cut of No Vacancy by the end of this week. So stay tuned because we will do a YouTube screening right here on Orange Grove 55 of No Vacancy. And I can assure you that there's no political statements in it. It's not one way or the other way. It's just a film that I hope you want to watch. That's all.
But I will say though, because we did touch upon of how things are produced and how it leads down to the pipeline. Jay started this project when I was 5 years old.
and he had a beard back then. It's crazy.
Yeah. George's beard has only grown even multiple times since then. Yeah. But yeah, it's been. It does feel like what's really funny though, George, is from a time to writing to a time it's done. It's actually pretty fast, and that's to the point of saying how long does it take for these things to come out. It just is so much work, and when you care about something and you want to put a lot of time and energy into it, it just is. It's so crazy. But I can't wait to show it to you because we've been talking about it so much.
Yes.
Like George is saying, since he was 5, we've been talking about it, and we gotta see it finally. So hopefully we'll be able to arrange something in the coming weeks. So make sure that you stay tuned and you're subscribed.
Absolutely. And the Italiano, if you could let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Seymour Duck. Again, 1,000 followers on X. Let's get them to 2,000 now. Mr. Seymour Duck, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck, where I'll be listening 1 hour of Mario music.
There we go.
But apparently some guy named Orange Grove 55 called me a Disney shildo.
Yeah, I saw that. He called you a Disney shill, exactly.
That guy's out of control. We got to cancel that guy.
Exactly. I mean, come on. When you're super into Nintendo, it's obviously you're paid by Bob Iger. Seymour. Come on now. Duh. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. And until the next time.